Hello, and welcome to season 2 of the Better Not Perfect podcast, or welcome back if you joined us in season 1. If you're new, we're so excited to have you. I am your host, Dr. Shea Butler, and I'm the author of Better Not Perfect: From Hot Mess to Life Success, a woman's guide to learning, loving, and being herself unapologetically. In season 1, we got to know a little bit more about each other. And it was just great conversation. And I just really enjoyed the time we spent. Now we're in season 2, and we are bringing guests in. We are bringing remarkable women in who have joined me on my journey to better, who have made an impact through support, through guidance, through love, through sisterhood. And I'm just so grateful to have in studio with me today's guest, Georgia Kelly. Georgia is an executive in the finance industry. She is a leader when it comes to women's issues and women's leadership. She digs right in there with us, and she is really encourages to be our best selves and just show up as our best selves and make an impact. She makes an impact in the community too. And so, Georgia, lovely, lovely
Hi,
to have
Shay.
you.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me
Oh,
today.
you're very welcome, my dear. So, I'm going to begin with you the way I begin with other guests. Tell me, what does better, not perfect mean to you?
It really represents so much of a woman's journey and her journey of aspiring and reaching and looking at, different ways, whether it's social media, whether it's family, where we all had a goal of what we were supposed to be
Mm,
because we were told as young children what we were supposed to be.
mm,
And to me, it really did shatter the glass house. And
mm.
that was really important because, we grow up and I remember, raking the floor, the shag carpet in the 60s because my grandma was coming and making sure everything was perfect and which is fantastic and I still do that today. But at the same time too, I think that there was a lot of growing up where there was just the way in which we were supposed to act or behave or be. And my parents were extremely supportive and amazing. But at the same time, I always strive for this perfection and always strive to do the best and to be the best and to be independent so that I wasn't a burden to anybody else. And after I read your book, I just felt this like wave of incredible emotion and this ability to just let go and say, wow, someone actually is living this and breathing it and showcasing what it is that we can do. And that is to let it go.
Mm.
Perfectionism is so incredibly harming to so many people, and it prevents them from living their lives in the way in which the universe or God or whatever you believe it was destined to create. And I really believe that being better at everything just makes you continue to strive, but it allows you to celebrate, which is so incredible along the way. Whereas perfection, all you're doing is just trying to get better.
Yeah.
I mean, more perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, thank you for saying that. And it really is this journey, And, I like what you said about, and I don't want to misquote you, but my understanding of what you said about, it seems like we start off and our strive for perfectionism is not necessarily a negative thing.
Right.
It seems like, we want to show up as women leaders. We want to take back our power or discover our power. Um, we want to achieve. But then there's a tipping point, it seems, where it shifts from something that's positive and to just pursue, to show up and be our best selves, into being some version of our best selves that's not really our best selves, if that makes any sense. It's like we aspire to be either what we see around us in a way that I think what makes it negative is when begin to covet it and not say, because I can say, wow, Georgia is an amazing executive. I want to be like that. I want to talk to her. I want to know her path. I want to get some tips That's healthy. But where it becomes unhealthy is that's Georgia. I want to be her. Why don't I have what she has? Why don't I have that position or that, that whatever it is that I see that Georgia has? And then we begin to covet what someone else has. And I think that's in some ways the shift. I think about that in my journey. I think about when I talk about being a hot mess. Part of my messiness was because I was looking at all my friends around me get married, and I was coming up on 30, and I was having a time bound tantrum
Mm.
that I'm coming up on 30 and I don't have this, and everyone else has
Yeah.
this. What's wrong with me? And it didn't fit into this paradigm of perfection that
Mm.
I had created. I'm going to have this, and I had life lined up. Were you one of those people too that at this I'm going to do this, at this age I'm going to do that? Or
No.
did it manifest differently for you?
It manifested a lot differently.
Hmm.
I was pretty independent growing up and great, I mean, just fantastic family, great upbringing, just, wonderful. Lots and lots of love. And it was that I never really set goals ever. To this day, I don't set goals. People think I'm nuts. And, I was always told that, expectations that are never made are never met, or goals that are never set are never made, or never achieved. But at the same time, too, I kind of, in a way, go with the flow sometimes to the detriment of my, success or fulfillment or whatever, because I just kind of feel like it's just supposed to be an evolution. It's not supposed to be where we charge ahead constantly. Now, I work a ton because I love what I do. So, with that, you could construe that as something different. But, growing up, like I didn't know, I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist. And instead I ended up as a financial advisor, which you are a psychiatrist, right? So there was different like things along the way that of course everybody has to, chart the path or they have to take the road, whether it's less traveled or the one that they choose for themselves. And and everything was more of like a surprise for me, which was really interesting. So, going down to New York City and working on Wall Street when I was supposed to be an account executive for an ad agency. Neither of them I knew nothing about, right? But that's what I ended up doing, which led me to a trading floor, which led me to come to Albany, which led me all the way in these different paths. And, each decision that was made for me or by me, or for my family or by my family, or whatever it may be, I really always just kind of embraced it. So I was always one that would take risks or always one that would accept change and really look for change. Sometimes in a way it was, oh, what guru is she seeing now? What's she doing, today or whatever. But I felt like things showed up in your life at the time in which you needed it the most. And it was okay to divert and do something completely different than what you ever expected.
And isn't that today? I think you were ahead of your time with that because I think more and more today, parents are saying well, in some ways, saying to their children, explore a little, figure out, what speaks to you, what resonates when you think about what major you want to be in college or what job you want. If you're not going to go to college, what trade calls to you, and spend some time thinking about that as opposed to just going on this path of what you think is expected of you.
Right.
There's so much stress that I find young people today are under,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to choose the right major and the right career. And but it sounds like you're saying that you just remained open, and through your openness things began to come into your life, and you found the courage, or maybe it just was innate in you to just
Yeah.
pursue those things. Does that
Yeah,
sense?
I kind of feel like it was innate. I believe that, just the support of family and growing up and seeing strong women like my grandmother and my mother and other women around me in a time where women were coming up into business, right? They weren't necessarily in business, So when I was in high school, I always worked. I mean, cleaning houses for my mom's friends and doing all these other things. I just it was just a means to an end in a way, because it gave me freedom. It gave me financial freedom. It gave me freedom to go out and shop if I wanted. It gave me freedom not to depend on my parents to tend to things for me. And I think that raising two children has been a really wonderful thing, because it's enabled me, my husband and I, to reflect back. And, my daughter went to 4 schools, one at the College of St. Rose, where she ended up for a year and a half, right? So, and she moved to Louisiana. That's great. That's fantastic. You know what? I'm not going to stop you on your journey. My son picked a school, went down 12 hours away, and stayed there for 4 years, and that was that. So I think that we do put a lot of pressure on our students. We put a lot of pressure on our children. And I think that it's to a fault, without a doubt, because they always think that they should be what their parents are or what their grandparents are. Or they should always feel like they're never enough. They're never doing enough. They're never working hard enough. They're never earning enough. And to me, that's just so incredibly, it's spirit shattering, and it really is just taking away the essence of who they are as individuals. And we are all here as one person.
Right.
We will never replace Shea Butler, right?
And we won't replace Georgia Kelly.
Right. So therefore, why not be as expressive as you can, and why not be as open as you can, and allow those freedoms? And that's why some schools are showing up, right? Like the charter schools or the Montessori schools, where children have the ability to express themselves in a way that we didn't get to express ourselves as kids, right? In school and through our educational system. So that's encouraging individuality. It's encouraging teamwork and camaraderie. And all of those things are very important and very positive.
Right, right. The one thing I think about with this expression, and I've had to learn this sometimes the hard way, and some in our audience may relate to the conversation, is that sometimes when you are freely who you are, sometimes there are consequences to those things. And in the consequence of showing up authentically or making decisions, like for some, if you pick the wrong major, it means more time in school, so there are financial consequences. If you show up too authentically at work and it's a culture that is not a good fit for you, you're going to experience blowback, right? And you may lose your job, or so we want to encourage exploration and adventure and going with the flow of life. But I think we also have to think about, when consequences come, where are we grounded? And one thing I've always really admired about you, Georgia, is you have a really strong spiritual base, and you approach life in that way. Like you said, the pressure we're putting on our young people today is spirit crushing, And so how do you keep your spirit alive and from being crushed?
That's a beautiful question. I think that it's an internal dialogue. It's an internal dialogue to God. It's an internal dialogue to the universe. It's an internal dialogue with yourself. I think we're made up of a lot of different people inside there. And, and I think the greatest part about it is, when you do allow yourself to have time alone, and it's not lonely to be alone. As a matter of fact, it's the most, I think, reflective, uplifting, connective thing you can do. And my husband goes to bed early. I go to bed. I don't, or
In the
maybe
wee
I do.
hours.
Right, in the wee hours. And that's when I find my time to just, think, talk to myself, read, pray, meditate. There's so many different ways to be able to connect with self. And self doesn't mean being selfish. It means that if you don't connect to yourself, then then it is selfish if you don't. And if you do connect to yourself, it becomes selfless, because then you're in such a better position, in a mindset and a spirit set and a health set, to be able to express yourself with others and show up for them when they need you, and just be a wonderful supporter of them. in different ways. But you're also a supporter yourself, which I think is so critically important. And that's, I think, the most difficult thing for us, especially as women, especially as moms and working women, that, we have to carve out that time, or we have to just crash and burn. And
Right.
then we get picked up off the floor, whoever's around. In my case, it's usually my husband and my kids that are like, okay, come on, it's time. But at the same time, too, if we can do it on a ongoing basis, I'm not a planner. So I
Hmm.
can't plan it in my day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just do it when it's ready and when
Right.
I'm ready to receive.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And and to try to be intentional about
Mm.
it, even if you don't plan it, maybe when the day has gone by and you're off kilter,
Yeah.
you may say, "Oh, I know what? I haven't checked in.
Yes.
I haven't checked in with self
Yeah.
today. That's
Hmm.
what's going crazy or going awry." And then what I encourage, I work with executives and um, and they run a full range of personality. But one thing I know when I say find time for yourself, set personal goals, those who are givers find it very difficult. It when I say self-awareness, self-love, they hear selfish.
Yeah, they do.
But I love the way you stated it, that it's almost like, we hear that old acronym. It's like putting a mask on yourself. They tell you on an
Mm.
airplane, put it on yourself, first. And that's how you almost have to explain it to those who, um, and I won't say they don't find themselves worthy of, but it almost comes across that way. Like,
Hmm.
um, there's nothing interesting about me that I need to spend the time to uncover or discover. And sometimes I think we need to check in with ourselves, and why is there so much attention that we would give the world, but not ourselves?
Right. Well, I think when we display it in a way, I have so many wonderful, amazing friends in this community, and one in particular, she turned 60, she went on 60 trips. And I was like, I could never go on 60 trips. But she did it. And every trip she did was with different people and different experiences. And it was absolutely remarkable. And she's probably up to probably about 55 right now. And she's got 5 left between now and year end.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's just wonderful that she gave herself that grace.
Mhm.
And I think that we don't. It's so incredibly important for us. 24-hour getaway. My husband and I have this thing, and you just 24-hour getaway. You leave at 12, 8 in the morning. You go away. You have lunch. You take a nap. You have dinner. You eat breakfast, and you come home, and you feel like you've gone on a vacation for an entire week just because you gave yourself a time out and forced yourself to. So I really feel that to be able to allow yourself. It is the grace. Give yourself grace. And the worthy thing is really important because, I've never felt I'm worthy of anything my entire life. But that's something that I constantly work on
Mm.
and do things to really maybe validate in a way, I
Mhm.
think, by doing different things for myself. One in particular is I have chronic Lyme, and I've had it since 2013.
Mm.
And, we bought a sauna. It was expensive, but guess what? It's a far infrared sauna. And when I get to that point where it's just like at the edge,
Mhm.
go down to the sauna, go down to the sauna, go meditate, go get this out of your body. And I think that people haven't really um, identified what it is that they need to do because all of the noise in the business every
Right.
day, the noise. And COVID helped
It
because
did.
each of us had that time to reflect and to be.
Mm.
And we had not been in a long time.
Right.
And
Right.
that gave us a time to say, wow, where do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend it with?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
And like when we got together, how fantastic to be able to spend it with these great women in the community that all
Right.
shared their stories as you were so, gracious in sharing yours, right? So we then I think came out of it saying, hey, I am worthy. And my time is ticking and we don't know how long we have. And we really need to step up for ourselves and step up for the people that are most important to us and make sure that we're taking the time to do that and to
Yes.
feel worthy
Yes.
and accept all of it because it's the gift.
Yeah. In any way that we can, you
Mhm.
know. I just think about, when I was younger and I didn't have the means, a getaway looked very different. Like I,
Mhm.
I say,
Mhm.
the community knows, the Better Not Perfect community knows that I was a mom at 14 and then I was a mom again for the second time at 34. So there are 20 years between my first and second child. And when my first child was younger, I couldn't have the
Right.
vacations
Right.
that I could have with my, second and third child. Um, but wherever we can, but we did have vacations. We did
Mhm.
find ways to get away. So we didn't go to Orlando to Disney, but we lived near ski mountains. I would take her for ski lessons and we'd stay overnight at a bed and breakfast and just trying to find ways to incorporate in ways that you can. Sometimes a getaway was to the library and we would just go and read about different places. Or we lived in New York City when she was smaller. We would go to the different museums
Mm.
and they used to have a free day. I don't know if they still do, but we would go on a free day and we would just tour the different museums and just finding ways to create so I don't want the audience to think who may be at different levels and stages and places in life, there are ways that we can be intentional about finding time away, time alone, or time to spend with our loved ones
Mhm.
to just explore and have adventures, you know?
Yeah, you think about the Adirondacks
Yeah.
and how many friends have gone up and hiked the Adirondacks. And
Hmm.
they said this season in particular is just radiant. And
Mm.
I said, next year at that time, I'm going up. And if I can fix my knee, then I can, maybe hike. But those are the simple things that we can do.
Mm.
And just sitting in my backyard the other day, I'm like, I can sit in my backyard.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
the weather created this beautiful time and space that only lasted for a couple hours, but I just sat in the backyard and did
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
No phone, no nothing.
Yeah.
So, there's really easy, simple things that we can do
Yeah.
to give ourselves, like you said, the self care,
Yeah.
and find ways to, express the parts of ourselves. And all the festivals that we have in this community that
Mhm.
it doesn't cost anything to show up to these festivals and
Mhm.
to enjoy music and to enjoy culture and to enjoy all the fun foods in the food trucks and
Right.
those types of
Right.
things. So I think that it's great to be able to um, just find time
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
from the hustle and the bustle.
I agree. I agree. And if you unfortunately don't aren't as blessed as Georgia and I to live near the Adirondacks, pull up an events calendar and find out what's going on in your community, in your area. You'll find that a lot of things are low or no cost, all the way ranging to top concerts or art exhibits, or there's just so many amazing things that you can do and find and explore.
Hmm.
I love that about you, Georgia. I love your openness. First of all, thank you for sharing that you had chronic Lyme. I had no idea
Yeah,
because whenever I see you, you're smiling and you're just happy and you're just always giving of others.
thank you.
And so for those who may struggle with that, maybe they have a chronic disease or chronic issue as well. What advice? How would you encourage them to sort of, manage life and still keep their spirits up?
I think it's more of identifying that it's meant to happen for you
Hmm.
as opposed to,
Why
it's
me?
happening
Why
to
me?
you,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Um, and there's just so much. I mean, I lost my father. He was 47 years old. He died of a brain tumor. There's just different things that people go through, right? Different family members or different adversities in their own health. Um, but I really feel that you realize that you have to have the mindset of it's temporary. Because if you don't have the mindset that it's temporary,
Mm.
then those dark rabbit holes are pretty ugly, and it gets pretty scary in there when you can't see the light right at the end of the tunnel. And the other part of it too is don't always take everybody's advice or diagnosis or prognosis as face value.
Mm.
Find as many ways to be able to heal yourself or to be able to find other doctors or get a second opinion or a third opinion if you even feel. Because that's really critical. It could be that that's one person's view of what they're seeing, but it doesn't mean that that's your destiny,
Right.
And that I think is very difficult. I mean, if it's another type of illness that, is incurable, then of course. But if it's something like a Lyme, doctors didn't acknowledge it for years. And my daughter had it since she was in second grade, and we had no idea. We
Oh,
thought she
wow.
was a hypochondriac or whatever. Get on the soccer
Yeah.
field, kick the ball. And then we realized that she had chronic Lyme her entire life. And I
Wow.
didn't know until I got diagnosed, right? So, and the same thing, my husband had a motorcycle accident. Like, never knew or thought that he would be able to overcome that the way he did. It's incredible to see.
Wow.
And that's internal will, you know.
Mhm.
I remember a rheumatologist said to me one day, because I was in a clinical trial, and he said, and I walked away and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. It's toxic. And he said, I've never met anyone who's got more of a will than you do. And it just stuck with me because it made me feel like I do have a will. I can help control this. I can help effectuate it. I may not be able to fix it and heal it and do whatever. But when a surgeon said to me recently, the same surgeon that looked at my knee 5 years ago, hey, you told me you were going to heal your left knee. How'd you do? I said, it's great. He goes, good. Why don't you try to do the right one? So I'm wearing
Oh, wow.
flats for 9 months, right? So I can do flats.
Yeah.
They're not as fun, but I could do flats, right?
Yeah.
So I think that those are the kind of things like that if you have a dialogue with yourself
Mhm.
and if you become your best friend of yourself,
Mhm.
then you're going to give advice to yourself the way you would your best friend or your
Mhm.
sister or your mother or your child. And we lose sight of that because
Mhm.
all we think is whatever the gurus or the doctors or the experts are saying is true, not necessarily.
Mm. Right. Yeah, I love that. I
It's
love that.
trust.
That internal conversation with yourself,
Hmm.
trusting yourself
Yeah.
and those voices, that spirit voice, that God first voice that's guiding you and supporting you along with the mentality of saying, you know, I'm going to work toward this.
Hmm.
And then taking the help from friends and family, the support that you get along the way, and the guidance that you get, spiritually, that uplifts you, that gives you the drive to go on. I'm sure you didn't wake up every day, you know,
Hmm.
happy and
Yeah.
joyous and free and
Yeah.
but you always found yourself back there, it
Mhm.
sounds like.
Yeah. I think I did, but it is support and it's family and it's friends. And, for those people that feel alone and that feel that they don't have the support or can't find the support, it's really hard to have the courage to be able to reach out.
Yeah.
We say this all the time at different events, women at work or any of the events that we ever go
Right.
to. And I love when I see these young girls showing up and they're just kind of looking in the room and going, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. But it's because they were seeking something for themselves. They were seeking community. They were seeking
Right.
to contribute to something or to get something out of something, right?
Right.
And I think that's the most incredible thing to see. And more, I think, especially women, they are asking for help.
Right.
They're delegating. They're finding their tribe, right? People talk about their tribe. I don't have a tribe, but they find their tribe.
You bounce
Or
around from
I
tribes.
bounce around, right?
Yeah.
Or they, will be in a particular organization that's meaningful to them, or a church,
Mhm.
like you and
Mhm.
Odo have done, and
Yeah.
and it's fantastic,
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's some people don't have the ability to get outside themselves and allow themselves to have the grace to do that or take the initiative.
Yeah.
But reaching out to other people, and someone said to me the other day, well, I told my son to just go on one of those meetups and find something that he likes to do. And I thought, that's great. He's 20 years old. How perfect, you know?
Yes,
And
yes,
giving him the permission to say, it's okay to just step up and step in at any time
yes.
when you know nobody. So over my whole career, I've walked in the room, I don't know a soul. And I'm like, but I'm here
Right,
and I'm coming,
right,
you
right,
know?
right. And I love that, finding the courage to get in community and the importance of interdependence and making connections and forming relationships. And it does take courage if that's not your natural go-to. Now, for Georgia and I, that's sort of our natural go-to.
Right.
So but we understand that that's not everybody, that is easy for everyone. But it's so important on this journey toward better, on this journey towards self-awareness, self-love, showing up authentically and really getting the desires of your heart that are meant for
Mhm.
you. Purpose for this season, as you've heard me say. That getting connected, being able to call up when you have those feelings of sadness, calling up a friend and just saying, I'm sad today, I'm depressed today. Can we just spend some time together? That is hard. Believe it or not, that's harder for me
Mm.
than it is to walk into a crowded room and give a speech, a keynote, is to call up one person and say, I'm feeling kind of sad today, and I would love if we could just spend some time together. And so I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying
Yeah.
to find the courage. We all have courage for different things, right? But finding the courage to not fear rejection or you know um,
Weakness,
weakness,
right?
right,
Yeah.
right, because we all have to show up strong and show up perfect. I wrote the book, but I'm still on the journey. I mean, there are some days, I'm like, I'm not better today,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's the courage. I think it's really, the courage to not feel like it's a weakness to ask someone and say to somebody, I need you.
Mm,
And that to me, I need you, is just such a powerful 3 words, right? Um, and that is vulnerability. That is openness. That is, you know, um, accepting that you can't do it on your own. Or maybe, in marriage or in family, then you not necessarily are going to reach out to those people in order to try to help solve something that you're helping to solve or to show up in the way that you want them. It's always in marriage, it's, I don't need the answers. I'm just asking for someone to listen. And sometimes girlfriends are so much better just
yeah.
listening than giving you answers. So I think that that's really
Yeah.
important that you are able to, pick up the phone or say, meet me for breakfast or meet me for a walk or whatever it may be. And, we used to go away and just do yoga, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm not really a yoga person, and we didn't really do it, my husband and I, but we would just go and
Yeah.
show up. And it was
Yeah.
like, wow, this is amazing,
Uh-huh.
and how incredible it was. I needed that. I
Yeah.
didn't even know I needed it. And the
Wow.
tears are streaming in the yoga class. And I'm like,
Wow.
what is going on? But it
Wow.
was really different new experience that I never
Wow.
had, known.
Wow.
And what a beautiful unveiling or opening up of, realizing that there's different modalities and ways in which you can, tell people, I need you.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Georgia, this has been great.
Uh,
I have really enjoyed this conversation and delving a little bit deeper into all the different ways that we can continue on this path to better, to build self-love,
yeah,
self-confidence, finding freedom, the freedom to be, the freedom to heal, the freedom to be vulnerable,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
you are a shining example of that, my friend.
Well, thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. It's been beautiful.
Yeah. So, if you would like to hear more about the Better Not Perfect podcast, perhaps catch some episodes from season 1, you can do so by finding us on our YouTube channel, Better Not Perfect, or on Linktree, Better Not Perfect. Or you can just come to my website. That's so much easier. And you can find all the many ways that you can watch and listen to the podcast. You can also find out how to buy your copy of the book. It's on Amazon and a few independent distributors. And my website is www.drshaybutler.com. That's www.drshaibutler.com. So until the next time, continue to be better. Thank you.
Thank you.